So, speaking about philanthropists and funders, they can be at times fickle, changing directions and typically looking for the new ideas that are cool today and possibly gone tomorrow. The timely versus the timeless. At the ground level, it often feels as if the most important change comes from deep commitment, staying the course, and more than one decade of plodding ahead, advancing slowly and steadily. Does this resonate? And if so, how do long-term effects remain vital to philanthropists?
It's interesting. This question was asked by the same group as the previous question?
Yes, both questions came from Red Tomato.
It's very interesting because you could almost play one question off the other as one contradicting the other. I have seen, actually, I do agree, I think sometimes philanthropists can appear to be fickle and change directions. Actually, some of those who have taken a bet on a new idea, a new organization, as the previous question implied, during the recession found that those were not sustainable because they had no business model that could withstand a recession and had to abandon those efforts or help them merge into another organization. I do think a surprising number of foundations will stick with something for a long time. Kind of surprisingly, our data shows that we have some different GIS mapping platforms so you can see who gets money and who gives it in terms of foundations and their grantees. And on one of these maps, we have over 2 million grants, but they go to fewer than 200,000 organizations around the world between a period of 2003 to 2010. So what you're seeing is there's about a ratio of 10 to 1 in terms of the number of grants and the groups getting them. So people are getting repeated grants. And I think some of the big flagship organizations in any field, the donors stick with them for a long time. I think it's harder when you're a smaller organization to get repeat funding beyond maybe 4 or 5 years, to get somebody who will stick with you for 10 or 20 years. And sometimes that's just a problem of turnover in foundations, foundation presidents turnover in family foundations. There could be a generational shift that goes from the founder generation to the next generation, and priorities change, and as priorities change, grant patterns change.
Now, just a couple more questions for you, and again, we're so glad that we get to have you speak directly to our community like this. This is a question from the Bronx Community Pride Center. How do nonprofits in economically depressed regions, i.e. South Bronx, Harlem, compete with larger organizations in wealthier areas?
This is, as my mother used to say, the world's a tough place, and not everything is fair. I think fundraising, like so many things in life, is a networking activity, and organizations that are successful at finding resources are really good networkers. And that can be tougher when you're in a depressed area. The examples that were given, the South Bronx, Harlem, there's a lot of small, really good, struggling nonprofits in those communities that people don't know a lot about. That said, there are some that people know a lot about. Harlem was mentioned. Virtually everyone in the country has heard of the Harlem Children's Zone. Jeffrey Canada, very well networked leader, knows lots of people that give large gifts to the organization, that are willing to give time to go on the board. The Robin Hood Foundation in New York is one that mobilizes a lot of hedge fund investors and does give grants to these organizations that are, many of them in economically depressed regions. So I think if you are an organization in one of these situations, you either have to find your way to get on the sites of a Robin Hood Foundation or equivalent, sort of a re-granter type organization that has those networks, or you need to find a way to build them. And I'm often surprised with organizations that may be very small and seem to be in a neighborhood that is economically depressed, but have managed somehow to get a television actor or a movie actor or somebody really famous on their board who pulls in other people. So, look at your board composition, network heavily, publicity. I mean, all these things. This is about visibility and connections. At the Foundation Center, when we're teaching fundraising, the first thing that comes out of the teacher's mouth is that a grant begins with a relationship.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. In order to get that visibility, in order to get that resonance, I think it has to start with getting some attention, and the good kind of attention, in the right possible ways. This question's from Hammond Street Senior Center, a Revelation of Action finalist for Still Growing Senior Community Rooftop Garden. Are we as a society passing the buck by depending on philanthropy, the kindness of others, so to speak, to fund that which is not itself a moneymaker despite its inherent value? And do, albeit wonderful organizations such as the Foundation Center, in turn make a profit by capitalizing on the fear and complexity inherent in the funding-seeking world by charging hefty fees to organize and release public information related to all the possible sources where we might all scramble to go compete for these limited funds to support the basic necessities of addressing society's basic needs? This is that kind of a two-part question, so if you want to answer that part first.
Yeah,